to Brand to Scale, where I speak with leaders and founders about how they're building great businesses. I'm Jess, and today I'm joined by someone who's been at the heart of some of the UK's most exciting digital growth stories. Richard has helped grow businesses like Gymshark, the Hut Group, and many, many others, and now leads the Growth Foundation, helping brands scale with purpose and clarity. Richard, it's really nice to have you here. I am sure we are going to cover a lot of those name drops there a little bit later. But for those of us who don't know your whole story, tell us a bit about yourself and your journey so far.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you for spending some time with me and allow me to bring those to life and hopefully bring some really helpful insights to your listeners and or viewers. I'm conscious because of the kind of the real grey hairs and let's say retail and commercial ones I have. We might lose the whole hour if I tell the whole story, but in summary,
the highlights.
Yeah, the highlights. Started off working at the shop floor at Homebase. No longer with us anymore, but in the mid-90s, actually earning petrol and beer money while I was I suppose an aspirational musician in a band. I'm very keen into sort of music is my passion outside of work. Got like positively distracted that over the late 90s and did sort of professional session playing and everything else.
Standard, love that.
I suppose the interesting thing is that I took that natural kind of responsibility or fell into it as the marketer of the band. So the guy that would always pull the leaflets together, get them sorted, try and drive the footfall to the gigs. Kind of ended up doing that for retail. So very briefly was a carpet for a few years in the early 2000s and home improvement. While I've got a background of my family are all in home improvement in trades like electricians, builders, all that sort of stuff. So living and breathing that kind of terminology quite a bit. Not really my passion. And an opportunity to work at play.com, who back in the early to mid 2000s was the UK's equivalent of Amazon. So if you wind the clock back then, small kind of discs and books and CDs and video games in boxes shipped through the post. Joined that business at around 20 million turnover as head of marketing. I managed to stay on top of the rising tide of that business to 500 million over sort of about 3 to 4 years, really quick growth. And obviously it's very different sort of set of macro environment back then, right? Not as many competitors. It was much more difficult to launch an e-commerce store 20 years ago compared to now with the likes of Shopify and other platforms that make it super easy. An amazing time there. Then went on to e-com director at the Hut Group. And I was also sort of founding CEO of what we call Platform there, but now known as Ingenuity, which really broadened my experience just outside demand creation into all the, let's say, more operational and enabling functions, right? In terms of supply chain, goods in, goods out, the technology platform itself. So I got a really good, I suppose, almost general management understanding of how to run a business like that, not just, getting low cost, high quality traffic to a website, kind of much broader. I then left that business and did personal, I suppose, portfolio consulting in 2 tracks. I did some time, a couple of years with Unilever in their global e-commerce team and in and around prestige a little bit while they were quite hot roughly 10 years ago, looking at acquiring a lot of brands, particularly in the beauty space like Murad, Kate Somerville, Dermalogica, Ren Skincare, a few others. And my sort of task there was being a bit of an interface between where I'd grown up in direct to consumer or smaller scale up brands and then trying to talk into an incredible operational brand like manufacturing machine like Unilever. There's a very quick analogy on that. It's like you've got very similar terminology like revenue, profit, customer acquisition, retention, but the tactics to succeed a bit like it's a comparison of like hockey and football. Like scoring goals, right. You do both in both, but how do you actually do it? What are the tactics to succeed? So that's quite a different kind of, the playbook when you're on the pitch is quite different to win. And I also met Ben and Lewis, the co-founders and friends that started Gymshark at 8 million. And I was with those guys up until 200. And a bit of an analogy of my role there was, if you think of, and for those of you who've watched the original Karate Kid movie from the 80s, and if you haven't, watch it, but there's a high potential young champion called Daniel, who's this, could be a karate champion of the future. And he has this guide, like not only a spirit guide, but like actually a guide in terms of how to, again, get the right muscle memory of how to fight into him, called Mr. Miyagi. And I suppose a little bit, I was the Mr. Miyagi to Ben and Lewis, who are the Daniel of Gymshark. That kind of, you know what I mean? Where the really interesting thing around that analogy is that you're trying to impart the knowledge so that those guys and the team were executing and, vertical was fighting, and pushing the punches and winning. But actually, when it got really tasty or a big competitor or something, really challenging came out, I could jump on and throw a few punches and kicks around myself with them as well. So that's kind of what I did. Then in 2020, co-founded the Growth Foundation with someone I work with at the Hut Group called Sarah, who's an incredible commercial operator. And now we're a team of 20, where 15 of us are in growth consulting and guiding founders or investors on like the questions that often get paralyzed by choice around which channel, which audiences, which products, which countries, and then sort of the how to win. How do you stand out once you made those decisions? Particularly when more so than ever this year, like things are really limited: time, money, skill, and there's always things changing. Tariffs, AI, all the other things that are coming in. Like, do you change the strategy, keep it as it is? And then we also do quite a bit of work on, again, tactical support. So that Mr. Miyagi kind of thing is like guiding, but also we can jump in as well. And then I've got a team of 5 headhunters and recruiters, and I spend quite a bit of my time in the week doing talent and organization design for founders or investors, again, thinking about what the right next hire is. And that's everything from, I've met this week 2 co-founders of an amazing ready-to-drink coffee brand, there's just 2 of them, and they're thinking, like, when is it the right time to hire? Who should we hire? But right at the other end, I've just finished
always the big question, and
I've
always
got another,
the big question.
Another
founders.
engagement with a 150 million turnover active apparel brand, who are kind of global, and they've got just over 100 employees, and the question is, how do we improve revenue per head? How do we continue to grow the business and double its size, but not double the head count to some degree? So it's putting the right people in the right place at the right time. And I know when we met Jess previously, we kind of said, there's so much we could talk about. So I'm going to hand back over to you to see where you're going to take us first.
Yeah, it's a fascinating career journey, I would say. And one of the things and this is a conversation I've had recently with someone up and coming in the businesses that I'm working in. And you went from retail, you were in a band, and then you were kind of lucky enough to like combine those 2 things almost with play.com at the beginning, if I can put it like that, roughly. What was that an accident? Was there a pivotal point?
That's a really good question.
Any formal qualifications as well?
It's an interesting time, that kind of that time, because perhaps for, I would say, the lucky ones of us, and probably quite a few people in the UK have got that ability to, let's say, go to further education or nest with parents into their 20s. And that was even when I was in that age 25, 30 years ago, that opportunity was there. So you kind of feel like you haven't got the pressure immediately to get out and look after your own household P&L immediately, right? And I actually did some work experience in interning around the music industry. But perhaps the timing and kind of, I suppose, the legal framework for employment and interning thing was like, you can get some work experience, but we're not going to pay you anything. Here's some gig tickets and some CDs and stuff. And the thing that kind of...
It's like, how am I going to eat that? Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm thinking I was always going to... perhaps I could have taken a bit more time to explore that route and, build the experience and the equity you need to then get offered a real job, in inverted commas. But my dad passed away really unexpectedly. So he was, I say, in the building trade, and it was an asbestos related illness where he was, standing fit as a fiddle one day and then not here the next. So that kind of catalyst to kind of go, oh, maybe I do need to get moving with my life. And actually, I was, I could say there was an element of me thinking that, but actually, my mum, who's an incredible and formidable lady, kind of saw me probably moping around after a month or 2 after he passed away, saying, "Come on, you need to pick yourself up and you got to get moving with your life." And I think that probably pushed me into slightly more. I'm going to have to find something that's going to pay the bills. So I moved out of the entertainment industry and moved into home improvement, marketing, junior marketing role. Always then on the lookout for that route back in. And I was actually I would probably call myself a VIP customer of Play.com back then. So really into film and music, was already a customer from the late 90s. Actually bought from them when they were actually first of all launched in the back of Empire and Total Film magazine before they had a website. You could mail order direct. And then obviously the website came later.
Love those magazines.
Yeah. And so I was actually emailing them with, please, can I work for you? Like emails probably once a not once a month, but once a quarter perhaps, and never get anything, that kind of hello@play.com inbox, and just never getting a reply. Spotted an ad in Marketing Week while I was having perhaps a sandwich in my role, and I literally spotted that it was play.com, because actually they had a very unique and exclusive typeface built for them. So it was a graphic design typeface, and I saw it, and they actually didn't put the name of the brand on it. It said looking for a marketing for a company, and I'm like, I know who that is. Straight in. So might be a little tactic in that, and the clue was in that, and perhaps the people that had spotted that and jumped into that ad knew who it was. And I asked to come and see them, and I saw them. I think that was in May, June time, and I got managed through sort of summer holidays with interviews and stuff. I was in there by September. So working on a product category I absolutely adore, and still today I've had loads of amazing roles, but the one that really deep down connects to your passion, your deep subconscious passion, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
That's probably why you sort of hunted that down quite aggressively, really. It's going to happen. I'm going to email
Maybe
them,
there was a bit of that.
Touch that way.
Sort of trying to find that vision. Possibly. But you're right. It was kind of, I've split to us such a long time ago now, but I just remember that excitement of seeing that opportunity being open, and literally there was a phone number to actually phone instead of going into a generic inbox. I remember speaking to a lady called Katie who ran HR, who picked up the phone within a ring and said, "Hi, and I went, I've just seen your ad." And she's like, "Okay, come up and see us next week." And it was amazing. Yeah.
Brilliant. I expect that was quite a steep learning curve then, going from where you were into a junior marketing role. What was that like?
Well, quite a lot actually, because I'd lived exclusively in the offline world, talking about, I suppose, the principles of marketing, which is, creating awareness in the mid and upper funnel through above the line advertising. So I was at a business called Carpet-Right. So again, a discount floor, but a very national, floor retailer, floor covering retailer. And buying, as in the meetings where we'd be applying, 2 or 3 times a year, we would do, TV ads with relatively high production spends, into the 6 figures, with let's say A minus, B plus celebrity at the front, kind of talking about how brilliant the offers were, and getting involved in that storyboarding through to actually being on set, filming the lay down and the playing of the TV. So understanding TVRs and how you buy television. I did all of the, and I suppose when I started, didn't own any of these, but I was trafficking and transporting a lot of information to provide the output, but started to own some of this stuff eventually. But the mix and the budgets between radio and press and specialist press, local press, national press, never at that point. I think I had we wouldn't call them cynical, but the mindset of the I suppose the senior leadership team of that business was very much physical retail, physical communication, and actually, obviously, in physical retail, where you are based, location is such a key element to driving footfall and trust and all those other things. So when I'm there as the young kind of tech guy in the room and sort of saying, "Hey, we should do some display advertising or work with some affiliates to derive something," they're like, "What are you talking about? No one will ever be interested in buying floor covering online." And look where we are now, 25 years later. Well, I've worked with a few floor covering retailers who are exclusively direct to consumer, and also think about back then. We're talking 2000, 2001. There was not really anywhere to go and discover what your new flooring might look like in a beauty when you're redecorating your home, right? Those places for inspiration like Pinterest or even Instagram or anything, that just didn't exist. And also, the ability to upload large image files, and it just was, web 1.0 in all. So, and I quite technical. So I kind of, I've got, I suppose, an element of frustration of not being at the front edge of what sort of the internet could do, having been online since the early 90s myself. So
interesting. So you could see where it was going, but maybe didn't have the authority or the persuasion skills at that point to persuade senior leadership that that's the direction you needed to go in. Would that be correct?
Probably a combination of those things, yeah. But actually, when I think about it, my vision was thinking 5 to 10 years ahead for that category. Probably didn't have a very good way of explaining that, but I know obviously most retailers are thinking about this week, this quarter, this financial year, let's just do what's got to be done. But look, actually over my tenure there, the business actually went from being overtly kind of paper based, not only like in the advertising being in newspapers or anything else, but actually most of the back office function in terms of ordering and, managing a retail business was done on paper. And it went through a big transformational project with SAP to digitize the whole business on the back end. And it was only a couple of years after I left. So we're talking like towards 2007, 8, 9, something like that. The business did launch a online sampling business. So they caught up pretty quickly. So it wasn't as though they're
Nice.
pushing it down on purpose. It was just, I suppose, a combination of timing, stuff like that.
Yeah. I'd love to get into the pivotal point, trigger point of launching your own business as well, the Growth Foundation. But before we do that, I think there's a lot of value in people putting some, a period of time of their life and going and working for people and businesses to learn a lot
really
about
valuable.
people, management, like how that works, learn some lessons of what to do, what not to do. And I imagine that you learned some things along that way before you went and did your own thing. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what those were and anything that you took away from those
I suppose some key standout ones, and I wouldn't say perhaps it's a really spicy topic, but that you see it pop up in LinkedIn and conversations quite a bit, but being present and being in like the proximity physically with your team, your function, your line managers or your senior leadership team regularly is really key. I think learning and let's say hearing or ingesting information through osmosis in person is a real key benefit. And perhaps now where it's more acceptable to be hybrid or remote, I believe that those who put themselves forward and maybe make that extra effort to be slightly more present in person are probably likely to be the ones that get looked at most favorably for kind of opportunities. Because again, you can be there for those moments where I've got this thing. And I remember one of my tactics would always be try to under promise and over deliver on the things I was expected to do. So the requirements of my role and the objectives. But if there was something where my boss, you could sort of see a problem or a team would go, I need some help. You could grab it, help, and you create that. Build your own experience, but you become known for being just an awesome team player that's on the mission to help the business move forward. And one of the things I think I learned actually at Play.com in particular, I remember thinking, I had a line manager called Martin, who was, again, one of the best leaders and managers I've ever reported to. A couple of things that stand out for me would be, I learned very quickly that whenever I had a problem, I think I only asked him this twice, maybe 2 or 3 times where I go, I've got a problem, expecting him to answer it for me. That kind of common, hey, I've got this issue, is really important, I need fixing, and then like expecting him to solve it. It was like, well, what would you do? The first question back would be, what would you do? And I'd be like, think on the spot, oh, we could do this or this. He goes, great, which one would you choose? I'm like, B. Okay, great, I back you, go. That kind of concept. Don't just come with a problem, come with maybe 2, 3 solutions and a set of pros and cons for each one. Because again, one of the things I've learned as I've progressed into more leadership and management is you're kind of, I suppose, filtering, curating and making decisions consistently around helping people solve problems. And if you're presented with that solve, the cognitive load for your manager is much lower. I think the other one I learned quite quickly there, and that business was, let's say, much more open in its in its data end to end, like in terms of like traffic, visitors, conversion rate, revenue, average order value, unit size, order unit size, profitability, cost of acquisition. And I suppose digital retail businesses have a lot of that at their fingertips to some degree, whereas more physical or traditional paper-based businesses find that difficult to have in real time or accurately very quickly. But the importance of financial impact from a brand and marketing team. So sort of deconstruct that in 2 ways, is that perhaps the finance team and the exec see you as a cost center to some degree. So they're always looking at how do we, I suppose, optimize and refine the budget to maximize efficiency, but they also understand it's speculative to create the awareness and the demand that you need, that kind of level. And one of the things I remember, perhaps again with Martin saying, right, I've got my 2-week summer holiday with the kids, but there's a senior leadership or a board meeting while I'm away. And he said, can you prepare these things for me so I can send it in advance? I sort of said, well, look, what do you need? And it was very financial. Instead of sort of tactical execution, that I'm saying this on this day and we're going to switch that channel on there, or we're going to do that ad in that newspaper. That was kind of like interesting, but the core sheet or slide that they're all into was like, give us your budgets. Where's it looking? Where you're under, over? What's the cost of acquisition looking like? What you're seeing for the future? And I remember then one of the things we were struggling as we were growing so quickly was like keeping up with the accuracy of our commitments to spend. So a lot of that was still done very manually. If you're going to book some press here and some radio there and a production there, that was all done. We didn't have a purchase order system. It's quite manual. So I kind of said, look, I'm going to grab this and build a whopping great big kind of invoice accrual kind of payment like database for the whole marketing team. That gave me, I think, quite a lot of visibility of what the whole business was doing, how much we were spending as a total against our sort of revenue as a percentage, but also then built the confidence because it was really accurate, and I made sure it was absolutely bang on and kind of up to date daily. That Martin, my boss, could say, actually, do you want to sit in for me in those senior meetings because you have so much detail and understanding of where all the costs and the expenses are. So again, for anyone listening who's perhaps still very executional or even strategic in brand and marketing, that understanding of the expenditure was a key one for me in terms of a learning in that role. Yeah,
that makes sense.
And helped me progress and gain much more respect from the board. Yeah. So you can remember, I'm only 25, 26 at the time then, so quite young.
Wow. Yeah. I can imagine as well that put you in a good position then to grow and progress with that company because you were a bit more proactive.
Super proactive
with those actions.
Bring solutions and I suppose obsess about the truth in the finance position. So you don't need to be like us, because I meet quite a lot of us. It's interesting that the conversational thread we'll pull up, but you hear brand and marketing kind of squashed together as a word quite often, or a terminology or a role. And you also get kind of, I'm sure this is with you, Jess, is where you get brand marketers, I call them that, who are much more on the kind of yin and yang of art and science, or art, or storytelling and commercial analytical. You get people who are on that spectrum. You get some that are very much in the artistic ideation, creative. Spreadsheets scare the hell out of them. They're like, no, that's not where I'm at. And then you get the others who are overtly analytical, like data, insight led, and you get the odd someone who's in the middle, both brained. I'm fortunate, probably due to my musical background. I'm a left-hander. I've got a dominant right brain. Probably I've got some of that creative element to me, but I'm also super strong at maths and analytics as well. So probably maybe in a different life, I should have been an architect, where you get like form and function. And actually brilliant marketers are architects, I think, when you think of it like that. They've got the ability to create a feeling, but make sure the building doesn't fall around and collapse around you, because it's engineered properly. And I think that's
exactly, and can
nice
present
analogy.
the evidence as well. Yeah.
And present exactly that. That's really key.
What do you think are because there's a lot of marketers have a tough time, I feel, especially in businesses that are, I know, particularly reliant on, numbers and the metrics, and ignore that sort of brand awareness, storytelling feeling. What is, if you're a marketer in a business at the moment, you feel like you're not being heard, or you don't know what, is wanting to be presented from you, like what are the things that person can do to show the value of what they're doing? Because I don't think it is massively valued in every industry or every business.
That's really interesting. You've got a few things to unpack there, and bring me back on course if I get lost or distracted. So I think about the value point. I think let's like deconstruct that. Like what, I suppose, the understanding the objective for the company truly, right? So is it, for most, revenue and profit, right? But there might be some other values around customer satisfaction, and maybe some like unprompted brand recall or other brand metrics. But ultimately, most, again, businesses around, I want, greater revenue, greater number of customers, and greater contribution or profit. So I suppose then I think where marketers can make a really good distinction around their value is think about those metrics or KPIs I've just spoken about as lag measures. So it's the lag, it's the outcome of all the effort that you and your team, and it might be you're the only, marketer in the business, doing everything from posting on social to putting some money into Meta and sending some emails and changing the lead form on a website, right? You might be doing all of that as a kind of in a small business. You might have a team of people that are all doing those things exclusively. But if you then think about the lag measure of our efforts as a combined team, or me on my own, is revenue, customer number, profit, something like that. think about the lead measures that change that number. So, and it gets quite complex. I'm conscious maybe people listening to this, I don't want to blow their heads out. And as I'm trying to talk about it, but like for e-commerce, right, one of the key factors of like revenue is like the number of people that make an order in a period of time, their average order value, which is typically then the number of products in their basket. So it could be, right, one thing I'm going to do, it is one lever I can pull, which could be order size. So currently my brand does on average 1.5 items in the basket on a monthly basis, like for every customer that purchases. If I can get that to 1.6, that will change the revenue number. And also typically what you'll find if you're linking that back to marketing, let's say it's cost you £10 to get someone to make an order. You just made that marketing investment of 10 more efficient because you've maybe upsold a complementary product in the basket that wasn't there before. And if you think about those lead measures all the way up, and there are like, we've got a process here at the Growth Foundation called Optimization Bridge, and we identify 9 key ones, but there are probably 50 or plus moments where you can optimize a moment with a customer, from all the way from that first time seeing an influencer posting about you and your brand through to that I'm in the car about to press pay. You think about that. And the other thing, so I think showing your leadership team or your direct manager is that you've got that clarity of understanding of how the lead measures affect the lag, right? So, and then you can say, all I'm obsessed about is improving the lead, because a lot of people will say like, do more sales. That's like often marketers say, I want more sales. And you're like, okay, well, how? Like, you know, like, so deconstructing it into the lead thing. So, and we could probably lose an hour or two just talking about all of them. One of the other things I found really useful, particularly in the last 4 years where I'm dealing with tens of brands and we're trying to sort of systemize a little bit some of the things we look at. Often, a lot of marketers will look at the ad creative and the landing page. And often, as we know, you probably work with this, Jess, like founders are obsessed about the homepage, which might be actually the 7th most popular page. And people don't come to the site like that, but they're obsessed. You're like, is really, I suppose, trying to create as much authority and confidence about where your traffic is going. Like, you know, again, if like think of it in a physical retail store, if everyone walks through the front door, great merchandise the front door area in a way. But if you've got 17 doors, or in an e-commerce website, potentially 1,000 doors in, like, where's the most popular one? How do you optimize it? But one of the things we found are often, you're kind of playing around with ad creative, landing pages, and really obsessing there, which is something you should absolutely do. But often there's not enough care and attention spent in the very last step. So it might be a lead capture form, or in an e-commerce world, like the basket and cart itself. And often it's like, as soon as I get people like add to cart, it's done. And actually there's some amazing opportunities to start at the point of you've just made an order. What can you optimize in the step before that, the step before that? And one of the reasons that focusing at the very bottom of the funnel is that you've got a lot less variables there. So if you think about, I'm in the cart, I've shown massive intent to purchase. What could I tell you? Imagine this again is in a physical retail space. You'd be like, you're literally at the cash desk with a basket of goods. And like in e-commerce, like still the case, roughly 50 to 60% of people leave at that point. Imagine that in a physical store where 50% of people queuing up would just go, I'm going to drop my basket and walk out. Doesn't happen because you've spent time and there's actually quite a lot of investment made to go to a shop, right? Whereas on your phone, it's like a one click in a millisecond. But there's so many little messages you can drop at that last stage to reduce anxiety or convince you to buy. No one does enough testing and thinking about what to say at that very last moment. And that gets more important in things like floor covering or sofas or high considered purchase when you're about to spend, or a holiday. I'm sure you've probably booked a holiday online. You're about to spend some thousands of pounds and you're like hovering going, is the hotel right? Is it going to be like, you might be like, you know, there's some things and so sort of, I suppose, psychology you can play with your customer to get them over the line. So think about deconstructing that path into the major steps with lead measures that when you actually compound them together. So if you improve the click through from that by 1% and you improve then the checkout to completion rate by that, it all compounds up really materially.
100%. I think I'd like to come at the next question from both angles, because I know you are you recruit for businesses as well, so that they find the right people. But for businesses, and I've seen this happen a lot, who are looking to hire their first marketing team member, often what I see is they don't really understand what marketing is. So they just go out for a marketing manager or a generic job description of some kind.
Quite often now in the last year, get ChatGPT or Gemini to write it, type in, I want a marketing manager for my, and it spits it out,
Yeah. And I want, this, and this, and this. And then this poor marketing manager comes into the business, and then the first thing they are told is, we want more sales, or we want more revenue.
Yeah, do more sales.
Do more sales. You don't have any resource or team or a marketing budget often, but this is your goal. And that marketing manager might have a specialism in other things. Marketing's very broad.
Yeah, again, like copywriting, graphic design, potentially.
Yeah, and I found that quite often that marketers are brought in and they are expected to be the expert on SEO, copywriting, a designer as well.
Yeah, it's quite often you see...
know how to set up ads, all of that stuff. And they just drown and they struggle, and then they leave, and the leadership just goes, oh, well, they were rubbish. It's like, actually, you did the recruitment.
Yeah, there's a great quote, this Einstein one, which is if like you measured a fish to climb a tree, it's like you're measuring it on the wrong things, like it just it's not set up to do what you want it to do. So I suppose if you're a business thinking about that first, or building your marketing team, instead of like a list of like tasks, and like often you get like your role is to like marketing this, as I say, quite generic. This is what we hit as a definition, almost like a dictionary definition of what marketing is. We want you to do these things and responsibilities, but actually, when we're writing our job specs or talking to founders, hiring manager, we're really outcomes focused. So like, what is success in month one for this person? What is it in 6 months, or at the end of a probation or review period? What's the success look like in 2 years? And quite often I meet founders who are like product visionaries who are making their first proper marketing hire, and they go, I don't know what success looks like. So there's obviously an element of, in that case, use LinkedIn, ask for help, give me a shout, whatever, to think about. I'm about to make this first hire. I don't know what success looks like. And I suppose when you think about outcomes, there's the soft and hard ones, right? The hard ones are those lag measures. It might be that you say to that person, right, we've got 1 million turnover a year now. It needs to be 1.2. And I suppose you talk about a budget, and it might be, and we don't have a budget, and you need to come in and build me one. So in month one, I want to know how we're going to go from 1.1 to 1.2 million, grow 20%. And you're going to present me a plan that's going to help to understand what the investment will be needed to do that. And that's an outcome. So make it all outcome focused, because I think then for the candidate, if you see an outcome focused job spec or an ad, you're like, suddenly like, I've got the skills to really go for this. I'd know how to build that budget. I'd know how to say, it might be that one of the outcomes would be, we are super reliant on paid search at the moment. It's the only channel we use, and AI is disrupting it massively. We're losing traffic. We need to get into Meta or some other channels. And that would be like, do you know what? That isn't for me. I've got no idea how to operate Meta from a performance. So maybe this isn't the right job. So I think really outcome focused, and for candidates, spot JDs that are outcome dominant. And that's probably a good company to work for, because that clarity. I think that's a key point, I think. And it's really tough when you're a smaller business, because you're right, marketing does wear that hat from everything from creating the campaign and the idea itself at one end, all the way through to probably sending the email from customers who've bought it and you want them to come back later, and everything in between, the 50 different things you can do. Plus then you get, in the organizations we're building for some of the bigger, companies that have got 100 plus people, you get individuals that are just marketing operations managers that are moving in traffic information from the left-hand side of the team to the right to ensure, so every kind of almost potentially a lot of those tasks that in a small company you're expected to do all yourself get removed into separate dedicated heads. I think just having
absolutely
a bit of clarity on that. I don't know if that's helpful, Jess.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a very common scenario that I see, that there's this need for this unicorn that's a very generic job description that does everything, and also the added because they know they need marketing, but they don't quite know why or what needs to be done.
One of the things
the value of the job is low, so they don't get
often. I also see quite a lot around the transposition or the misuse, perhaps if I'm being a bit more brutal, of the word strategy and execution. So quite often you'll see like even sometimes like a marketing exec or a marketing manager role, which says you will come and build our marketing strategy. We want to pay you, let's say, a market competitive salary of 35 to 45,000 pounds a year to build a strategy. Yeah, if that, from the ground up. And maybe execution, but they're like kind of, and they want it fully formed from every, sub function of a brand marketing team for you to own as well. And you're like, look, that isn't just if you go in with that kind of investment in that role, you're going to find a 3 to 5 year junior, someone on their journey who will have some reasonably good pattern recognition of tactical, but like building a strategy, like for marketing, they will, and maybe this is what ends up happening. They will probably bring the playbook or the tactical pattern recognition from their last role. So they might have been in a role for 2 years at an agency or other brand, and they'll just come in and go, this is how we did it here. I'm going to replay it because that's all I know.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, I think probably the onus is actually on the hiring manager and the brand to do a better job of really understanding what it needs, what the outcome of the role needs to be, and investing in the project or the role properly. Yeah. And not say, but there's a really interesting kind of also dynamic there, whereas there are individuals that I've met and worked in my career in who have come in, let's say, commercially mature, that are exceptionally bright, both IQ and EQ, driven, ambitious, got grit and resilience, who are able just to really grow with the pace of the business and learn and just hungry to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, you've sold me a very broad and quite mesmerizing opportunity, but you know what? I'm just going to absolutely have a go at it. I've probably put myself in that camp a little bit in terms of some of the engagements I've had in my earlier career. I'm just going to grab and go and get
say yes to everything and
kind
see
of,
how
or
how
kind
it
of
pans
hopefully
out.
learn what to say yes to, but quickly through, but it's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, that
it is. It's one of those bugbears of mine, I think, when I just see, we just hired a marketing manager and she's like 24 and she's got no resources, no marketing budget, but is expected to grow the business by.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question for candidates as well as a watch out. Or again, if you're a hiring manager listening to this, like really consider the shape and the size of the team from a total resource perspective. Because even if you think, look, we've got a budget, like total marketing budget, including people and humans and everything, like of 500k, and you start to put 50k in for that, and suddenly you're now down to 250,000 media spend. Can you actually deliver what you need to, right? So it's really important, isn't it? Right. And that's where actually in the early days, agencies can be so helpful because you can get fractional support, or probably, Jess, I think you're into that, where fractional brand direction or CMO work, where you can go, I can help you with the strategy on a project, get that in, maybe on board a junior to start executing and guide them and direct them. And that's obviously getting more and more common, isn't it, in that space where you don't need
it's huge. And unfortunately it comes in the other direction, where they've already been through that, they've done it, and they've realized something's not working and they don't know why. So then and usually the problem is that they haven't got the right people, like you said, in the right seats, doing the right things with the right resources. Definitely. So in terms of growing business, clearly a passion of yours, growing businesses and working with entrepreneurs and business owners on how to do that. How do you find and how do you work out who you're going to be good fit to work with? Because I'm sure there are a lot of egos floating around in the world out there who are doing great things and they need help and they need support. And if you are going to be that sort of, conscience on the shoulder situation, like, you're gonna have to get on, right? So how does that work?
Ultimately, I think we work really hard here as a team, and I've worked very hard my whole life, and I think probably the one thing you can say for most founders that get, let's say, out of the kitchen or bedroom, who are into maybe early millions of turnover, which is where our sweet spot is for our engagement, is they work hard. We know that, so it's like tick, they're going to work hard. I think humility is the biggest measure or barometer for us. So I'll sort of unpack that. Typically got some, capacity to actually learn and consider and take what we advise and suggest with seriousness and consideration. And sometimes that doesn't mean that they have to follow what we say. So I think hopefully myself and my team never say, I know this will work. We will say, we think, or I think. And we then, I think this will happen. Here's a hypothesis, and here's the justification of it, and here's some outcomes. And just being open and humble is the key one for us. But that's, also not to say I've worked with some founders that are, again, always very hardworking, but maybe aren't as humble. And I wouldn't say it's EQ. Quite often the founders I've interacted with are like overtly high risk takers, like, that kind of definition of entrepreneurial where risk doesn't seem to be a thing that they get too concerned about. Or they are like highly functioning in some other ways. So sort of neurodivergent, sometimes can suffer kind of with these typical social cues and sort of, say, normal people. And that can be really quite challenging because sometimes they find it difficult to respect some boundaries like time and priority and some other things like that. But they're the ones that so it's one of the things that we do. And I think I've done my whole career, but we do it at Growth Foundation, is like loads of empathy. Like we come with super loads of empathy, think about how will this message or how will this thing or this proposal or our suggestion be heard, like put ourselves in their shoes. And actually that comes back from being a marketer like us, Jess, right? I'm thinking like, how is my customer going to receive this? How is he or she going to feel rationally, emotionally? And we try and think about that. But that's ultimately the kind of the barometer, really. Open to be challenged in a very candid and like, but with a positive way, with loads of empathy.
And you can gather that sort of personality type,
quite
can't
quickly,
you, with the conversation? Yeah. That's quite an easy tell. What about red flags that would be like, this isn't going to be someone we can work with, or I don't agree with your leadership style or how you work with your team, or wherever that might be?
Do you know what? I don't think I've got like red. There might be some ambers, but never enough for us to probably not look to help, because I suppose my mission is to help people grow the right way or businesses grow. I'm trying to think now. The reason I'm struggling is because there aren't many.
Well, that's good. That's good. I thought you might have some
more
horror stories.
Actually, the size and the commercial maturity of the business. So we've had a few engagements with more startup, from going from 0 to 1 million, for example. And typically the needs of that business are much more incredible executional presence. And the skill from the team I've built is slightly more like the Mr. Miyagi's of strategic guidance and mentoring. So that's the sort of one thing that I'd be conscious of, is that is the expectation of the founder or the team going to be, you're going to be really executional. Our expectation is, no, we're going to be more guiding and principle led. That kind of tension that can be created there in terms of that difference of guidance and direction versus executing is an interesting one. And that can be a one to make sure you're sort of aware of when you go into a project. But no, there's not. No, there isn't many, Jess, on the sort of on the personal level. I think the only other one as well is that on the common sense one, like the unit economics of the proposition in its own right. So like, we've got a whole host of, I suppose, fit for e-commerce brands. We do a lot of e-commerce work that have got like gross margins in the 70 to 80%. So, sell for £10 net of that. They're making £8 before they've had to pay anything else yet on that purchase. And there are other brands that are out there that are struggling to make, for the same £10 order, £2 or £3 gross margin before they have to pay anything else. So, and that's where you've got thinking there are some really fit for e-commerce in particular, like unit economics, and beauty is one of them, for example, because be a bit stereotypical here, but women will buy more than men, or they love shopping more than guys do. So beauty is a great category for that. High repeat rate or high repeat purchase opportunity. It's low returns. It's a small, tiny product that's easy to pick, pack, and ship. It doesn't cost a lot. It's not heavy. You can get high gross. Not only can you get high gross margin, but you get high average order values in the premium aspirational space. So it's a lovely unit economic to work on from just the starting point. Versus, and there's some successful businesses out there, but you think about like a floor covering business online, think of the size of the warehouse you need to have 1,000 different floors in stock. All really heavy, custom made to measure, like, operations, gross margins of 40 to 50%. Like you're already starting with a lot more challenge, like every day. So there's probably and that's not to say I would not want to work with anyone with those more challenging unit economics. It just allows you to perhaps take some slightly bigger risks when you're talking about how do we start to take you from being a brilliant product to an incredible brand. And brand building does take a longer term investment and, I suppose, a war chest of margin to be able to keep pushing into that, right? Whereas if you're having 100%. To trade to make a profit every day, that brand building thing can be quite difficult.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thinking about practical examples like that then. So we talked about leadership traits and personality types and stuff, and it is a thing these days, isn't it, that the founder is a celebrity. It's a thing, especially in,
TikTok
Gymshark, good
shop.
example, right? Yeah, all of
Yeah.
that stuff. The founder is the face of the brand and has celebrity status. And is that a conscious marketing tactic now? To make that happen? And does it
I think
depend
it
on that
probably is
founder?
conscious now, but what's interesting there is the interplay between consciousness and then authenticity. So when you look at the brands that did that, let's say in the last 5 to 10 years, it was often because they started from their kitchen in their bedroom, didn't have any money, and the only way for them to communicate about the problem they'd solved, like Gymshark was Ben and Lewis going, we can't find clothes that we want to wear to the gym that show off our muscles. And then, like P. Louise or Paige at P. Louise, I don't know if you know that brand, but it's a beauty brand on TikTok that's gone off like a rocket ship.
Okay.
Because there are these platforms out there that where if you can be authentic and bring a problem and say I've solved it with this thing and it gets some engagement, suddenly you can get that awareness and start selling some product off the back of it. Because I suppose the ones that succeed have found a problem that may say thousands or tens of thousands or millions of customers also have a problem. I've got that problem or need as well. You've solved it. Amazing. And I think there's an element here, again, this would be probably a PhD paper you could write, but it's like the algorithm is, I suppose, favoring authenticity because you get more likes and forwards and engagement from viewers versus a polished, non-authentic kind of piece of communication, perhaps from a less personal brand, when you just see a brand masthead or a logo. But I think what's interesting now, because now a lot of those founder forward and led like brands where the founder is the spokesperson effectively, you're probably seeing now brands that are saying, well, by design we'll put a founder in front, and then the authenticity I think we start to drop and there'll be a circularity to this, right, I guess. But then you still get into some of the challenges that some of the founder led brands that we've engaged with are you are now like physically and not only emotionally but physically like locked to this brand. So if it's something you're thinking that, I'm selling this in the future, or that can get quite challenging, right? Obviously, there's quite a lot of stories around Jo Malone, and she sold it to one of the big beauty companies. I can't remember if it was Estee Lauder or L'Oreal, one of them. Then suddenly your name and your image is now owned by someone else, is it, or something? So I think we always have quite upfront conversations around how do we that kind of conscious decision to be more overt and in front of the camera, or is there a way that we can de-risk you and remove that spotlight over time, and de-risk that? I mean, actually, I was at the benefit of a sort of networking breakfast earlier in the week, and the CEO of Revive Collagen, which is actually Sam Fahir's. I don't know if follow that brand. It's a liquid collagen brand, and it was the influencer creator founded, and actually they quite quickly thought about how do we de-risk her as a single point of failure. Obviously, it's a massive point of opportunity and growth early on, but thinking about that longer term, like what happens if, again, if something dreadful happens to her, which hopefully never does, that she has an accident or something, or actually, we want to sell it, but, she doesn't want to leave them naming rights. So they were very conscious around leveraging that founder celebrity at the beginning and then de-risking it with other celebrity, like a whole kind of, I suppose, squad of other celebrity faces and authority speakers to remove that profile. We had a similar, actually, proactive sort of conscious thought process with Ben in the early days as well, just because at Gymshark, because Ben was quite clearly brilliant in his community of like bodybuilders and lifters and resistance trainers. He wasn't great anywhere in the time, like in a more corporate business way. So we kind of had a rule book, or our playbook was Ben never sits with suits, we used to call it. Never, ever. like in front of the camera, and that's back then. Things change now, but where we need him to be is with our influencer creators and with customers. He's so authentic, comes back to authenticity, and he's confident. And actually, where he felt out of his depth at the time, and I know that we're very different now, but back 10 years ago, that was like he's still relatively commercially immature individual with a brilliant product and product market fit and timing, but sitting down in front of the bank manager or put a post out on LinkedIn about how to build a team, like just no credibility at that point, right? So
yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, and I'm always curious to, you might not want to answer this if in
Go
case
on.
Ben might listen, but is there a universe where if he hadn't put his face to that product or those products and marketed it as authentically as he did with his face on it, is that product a good enough quality and answers enough of the problems to be successful?
Yeah, so I would say yes, and I think it's interesting around your perception, Jess, because I obviously I've got a slightly privileged position of understanding that brand quite in depth. I don't think Ben's face was particularly used to create the awareness and attraction for the majority of its customers, like in the last 5 to 7 years. Initially, it was a brand made for men. It was their first product was male only. They made a fitted t-shirt and then a tapered tracksuit. And then actually you saw the opportunity, and probably again thinking slightly more from a commercial point of view, again, female customers in apparel will buy more frequently. They buy across a deeper color range, and
smart move. Yeah.
And then Ben doesn't quite have the authenticity and the authority to talk to a woman about what she wants to wear to the gym because he's a guy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So him being present in terms of building through the authenticity of what they were trying to do, which was effectively, we're building products that are a status symbol, because it was, particularly in the early days when I was there, it was a badge of honor because you're probably in good shape and you wanted to show off and you wanted to like create some attention to yourself. It was like,
yeah,
I'm craving attention, and I want to also show all the hard work and the hours and hours I put in the gym to look like the way I do. I'm really proud about that. And that's true for men and for women, both. I think that's one of the commonalities.
Yeah.
And when you talk about were the products good enough, yeah, I mean, you can always argue is the quality of the actual sewing, the seaming, the gluing, does the logo stay on love? Always improvement to make, right? But there's a price point you're trying to aim for and protecting margin.
Yeah.
But emotionally, that brand probably hit more than any other. So when I talk about that, that subconscious need to build confidence in yourself, is what that brand really did for the people who wore it. So we'd talk about a feeling. I don't remember if, actually, I'll also quote this from Ben, but I remember he said, every time we get one of our customers, women, to put on a pair of leggings, I want that feeling you had when you were a kid and you had a new pair of shoes. So when you were 5, you thought you could run faster. It gave you, like, new shoes gave you a superpower. That feeling is like, I want that feeling of confidence and ability to, when you put the legging on and you probably turn around and look at your bum in the mirror or just check yourself out, you go, I'm ready. I think my bum looks amazing. I'm going to go and hit the gym and I'm going to make it look even better. And that was so the emotional, like, transaction to the consumer was really, really high. Probably, I would say 12 out of 10. Technically, could the leggings wash a bit better? Probably, like 8 out of 10. But something you can always work on, right?
Yeah. So, well, you've always got to have something to aim for, haven't you, to improve on?
Yeah. So I think, not relying, and I don't think it is now. And it was, but there's an interesting element of, like, depth of authenticity. It'd be interesting. It's a bit like the Richard Branson into Virgin. He's like the walking embodiment of the mission, vision, and how to win in Virgin, isn't he? That disruptive, slightly cheeky, don't do what everyone else does, kind of make things a bit better through. So there's a depth to it. Yeah, but not reliant.
Would that be a really good trait to have, or a trait that you've noticed great leaders have? There's always that the why I'm doing this is this, and they've communicated it really well, and they're aiming for that all of the time, because lots of businesses don't have that.
But I absolutely think so. Sometimes it's a bit like we spoke, like the perfect fully rounded marketer are like unicorns.
Yeah.
Some of those, like getting the perfect leader, is also a unicorn. I don't think you can be absolutely brilliant at everything. But I suppose coming back to, like, a founder and leader is different as well, right? A founder usually is the visionary and has a deep understanding of the why. And I've met founders who are brilliant at communicating and narrating the story and the vision and why, even to the point where myself and team and, like, team members and, like, my team are in tears about, I've had this problem, I've fixed it, and look what we're achieving. You're like, oh, amazing.
Yeah.
But then would they have then the knowledge and the ability to go and start executing, and building the growth that they need? Sometimes not. So that narration and clarity around why is really important, but it needs also to come with the objective, like how much by when, lag measures, lead measures, And it also needs, often there's interesting tension with like founders and senior managers around that where to play in the strategy. So like often a founder says, I've done this thing, and I'm being a bit stereotypical, but quite often they are really high functioning, high IQ, but short attention span. Like get bored really quickly and we'll move on to the next thing.
And they need someone to do the execution and the planning
it's like
and get
they're
it
the
done.
idea people and go, I've had an idea. And you're like throwing ideas like, okay. It's actually quite often, and this is a similar thing at Gymshark and many other businesses have been in, like you get distracted by, we could do shoes, we could do sports nutrition, we could do gyms, we own like this brilliant, amazing audience in the gym space. And you're like, hang on a second, only like 0.1% of the population have heard of this one product. We haven't sold it, and it's amazing and it's incredible. But it's like that tension and balance is really interesting as well. It's like then getting the clarity of where to play and sticking to it in terms of that narration of the plan to the team. So like, we only make this product. Our target audience is this. We only sell it in these channels in this country. That's really clear. Don't get distracted by anything else. And even if you think you've got a great idea, right, which could be, we could open up a new sales channel. Great, bring it to us once a month. We'll review it, but don't get distracted by going off and doing it. Unless perhaps the strategy was go and do everything. Like I've been in this business that are slightly more like that.
Go nuts. Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. I think it's really important to go, right, this is why I've started this over here, and this is what I'm aiming for, and just do that really well first and get the right people to support you to do it, rather than, and you need that strong partnership or right-hand woman, right-hand man, whatever it is, to say to that founder who's coming in with all the great ideas, no, that's a terrible idea, or yes, it's a great plan, but not yet. Or
and quite often there's founding pairs are powerful typically because you usually get like a plant or an ideator, and then you get like the completer finisher operator who can like,
exactly.
and it's that, again, it's like the art to the science, the idea to the execution, like, and you get that balance and negotiation between them to find the balance.
And I think that's a really, really powerful combination if that happens well. Where it doesn't happen so well, I've seen, is where you've got that founder and you've got the operator, they work really well together, but those as a leadership aren't communicating that vision and mission to the rest of the team that are doing the work. That seems to be like a private conversation between those two people.
Yeah, and that's the key one. So if you're listening as either founder or senior operator, narrate your strategy like a broken record. Like, and actually brilliant leaders and founders who narrate are able to turn a conversation into rolling back up to a strategy. So, like, again, junior marketer walks in and says, oh my God, I put the wrong link on the email I've just sent to 10,000 people. Problem. Right. Hopefully they've come and they're listening to this podcast and they go, I've got a solution. I've already drafted an apology. And I thought about we can actually add this little apology gift as a gift with purchase. And here's a draft ready for you to approve. Like, hopefully that's not like whatever.
Done. And
then, but that feedback from the leader would be great, thank you. And then needs to tie back into some, and this is, I'm maybe gone down a path, I'm not going to be able to give a perfect example, but leading back into that strategy or the clarity of where to play and how to win. Like, and you see, I suppose maybe one example, better job of bringing this to life would be, like, politicians get asked questions by journalists and they will have got like a standard kind of messaging house responses. So they'll get asked a really challenging question and they kind of avoid it, which is frustrating, but they will bring it back to a message that they've been put on the radio to answer. It's like thinking about what other kind of propaganda like tidbits you need to drop into every conversation with your team. In terms of, we did this because X, Y, Z, and that helps us hit our objective. And you'd be like, I can't keep saying that our objective is X or that we only sell on this chat, but just keep repeating it because it gets into the muscle memory of the business. And the thing is, as well, there's something called Hawes Law, HAWES. It sounds a bit dodgy, was that? But there's like this thing of like, if you imagine a triangle in your head and draw the lines that join them up, like you talk about like founder, operator, maybe one other. It's really clean conversation lines, isn't it? Right? You can only go around the triangle with the lines. If you now imagine in your head 4 dots, you've now got the 4 around the outside and then the 2 in the middle. That's like the conversation scale got more complex. Now, if you imagine 50 dots and all the potential lines that can join up, the noise that's created, like that clarity fading, and then you get more people joining. That's one of the things we see when you start scaling teams from 5 into 10s. That clarity of communication drops because you get people with their own bias and knowledge coming in and, oh, I'm selling this product, I'm working on a supplements brand, or we used to sell that to this company, I'll see if they want to buy it. Like that might not be the strategy, and that's not being fed from the top.
Yeah.
So it's really, really key. Yeah. Frequent check-ins on that.
I think that, founders grow teams or leaders grow teams, and then they forget sometimes that those people need to understand why they're asking you to do those things, and what it ties back to. You're right. And that comes back to the communication point, doesn't it? You were saying earlier about
clarity and communication.
Yeah. Otherwise, what did you say last time we spoke? Strategy without clarity is just noise. Yeah. You said, you touched on it a little bit then. Yeah, exactly. What is a trend or a thing that you're seeing with businesses you're working with now with the Growth Foundation that's a common thread throughout? What issues are they having? What are they not keeping up with? Some
that are a little bit more evergreen, but still come up frequently for me is attribution of spend. So again, I don't know if you want to unpack this in much detail based on who your listeners are, Jess, but understanding where to put the next dollar or pound to generate the greatest return. And sometimes return could be its revenue, lag measure, or actually it's leads or engagement in a thing. And more across multiple devices, consuming more and more media channels, and the ability to know, do I spend £1,000 this week on TikTok, or should I put it into Google search? That question is evergreen. And one thing to say for everyone listening, there is no perfect attribution tool that exists. I don't think there ever will be. Maybe when AI is a bit further down the line. But the trouble is, because we are humans and humans consuming things, you can get pulled into becoming aware of a product. I'll use the Gymshark example because we're talking about that a lot. You can see someone wearing it in the gym and go, wow, her bum looks amazing in those leggings. I'm going to check them out.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you might forget that when you get home because the kids are asking for dinner and everything else. And then you're on your Instagram later on and you see a paid social ad in Meta for it. Oh, that's that brand I saw at the gym. Click. Now, me as a marketer goes, oh, if that paid search ad's got 100% weight for that purchase. And actually that wasn't the thing that got you into the brand. So don't get too hung up on perfect attribution. Get good. And if everyone wants to connect me directly, I can give you some good recommendations for some tools and things like that. So that's a trend that's there. And I think the way, probably just to keep thinking about really rationally, what's my marketing budget? Let's say 10 grand. I got 10,000 new customers last month. My cost of acquisition is 1. And then in the day, keep playing with the mix to find out, can you get it down to 90p or 95, right? And just take signals and things like that. But it is complex. I'd be rude not to say AI is being, I suppose, positively disruptive, particularly in creative, I would say, and collaboration and productivity particularly for demand creation teams. And you've probably seen quite a few posts from the likes of Lindsay saying, what took us 2 weeks to shoot and cost 100 grand can now be done in 4 hours and for much, much less. And there's, we've already started, I suppose, the beginning of that journey for us advising is, particularly in the team shape, with some of the larger teams we're building and designing, we're putting, I suppose, AI or agentic managers. So they manage the AI agents in the team to make sure they're being used and optimized and thoroughly optimized. So instead of taking out, let's say, a graphic designer with an AI prompt directly, we're not at that stage yet, but we are thinking about how can it be utilized to improve productivity and output volume. So you've still got a human guiding, leading, bringing that non-linear, crazy, brilliant human brain stuff.
Yeah.
But can it now be, right, you've done that first part, when you let the AI do the last 50% or something, right? And then you get onto the next idea and have more time to ideate and come up with things that no one's ever thought of, including an AI.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great point, because I think there's a lot of noise. There will be for a long time around AI and all the usual stuff. But
I've got a hypothesis. I think as AI is learning off of all of the information ever known in history, there's an element of it will just become homogenized, like vanillaness, right? Potentially. And I'm sure, again, based on the quality of prompts and things, but I think there will generally be a premium and for very human-led, designed, made, crafted products. And this happened in the Industrial Revolution 150, 200 years ago, right? Lots of industrialization came through in terms of manufacturing of furniture and everything else. And suddenly the arts and crafts movement came, which was heroing art, individual people that would craft you a beautiful window in your house.
Wallpaper.
Yeah, and I think there's probably an element of circularity to that too with what we're going to go through. and people being proud that their thing is not made by a artificial intelligence. Actually, we hosted we called it Founder Foundations on Tuesday night, talking about building team. And one of our clients is Lapland UK, who are a premium Father Christmas experience for young families. And he was saying he was interested around there going through this process, thinking about how to use AI. And he's like, it's the worst like branding for a tool ever, because artificial just makes it sound like artificial. And he said, why is it not collective? Because this is like the collective knowledge of the whole of history.
That's a great point.
Why is it not called collective? And I was like, oh my God, that's like, why is it collective intelligence? Because that's what it is. It can be really powerful. And that reframing of the word suddenly makes you go, oh, actually, I'd quite like to tap into collective intelligence. Whereas artificial makes me go, artificial, like, this isn't real. It's not authentic. It's like, so it's a really interesting thought. So think of it like collective intelligence, and then add the human, wonderful, squirmy brain stuff on top.
Yeah. I'm trying to have these conversations with marketers, copywriters, creatives all over the place, because there's still so much resistance to it. And, you know, it's not a quote from me. I don't know where it came from, but it was something like, AI is not going to take over jobs, but people who are using AI will take over people who are not using AI's jobs.
Probably something like that, isn't there?
More efficient.
And I can see that I have big empathy for the resistance there. If you've like worked for 10 years, like crafting your copywriting skill, and suddenly the machine can come along and output what takes you a week in 10 minutes.
Huge empathy, but there is an element of being practical there, in that you still have to be a brilliant copywriter to get the good
and I think there's an element, particularly copywriting is probably the one where you could leverage the current collective intelligence tools in the greatest way, is writing brilliant prompts into the engine, feeding it with all your brilliant work you've ever done, and then being able to sub and edit and improve the output. And then, but you can do that. What takes you now, let's say, I would imagine if you are, let's say, a solo kind of, you know, freelance copywriter, you could probably take your earnings from, let's say, you know, if you're earning 10 units a month, you could take it to 50 because you can 5x output at the similar quality. So if you come back to principles around what do most of us, when we're transacting, think about: time, quality, and cost. So, you know, you heard of that iron triangle, and typically if you want, you can only have two of them. Like so if you want better quality, it either takes you more time or it's going to be more money. You know, that kind of that relationship they will have. And suddenly you've got an area where you can go, I can keep the quality high, I can massively improve time, and now I can charge you 5 times as much for it, or I can have 5 times as much capacity. Like,
and I think that's the important point, isn't it? You still need that crazy creative human brain to get the good stuff out of the collective.
And particularly more, as I suppose, more of these tools and models will be used, and we'll get better at consumers spotting that. I mean, I know it's perhaps kind of getting harder. I don't know. Yeah, it's one to watch. I think it's really interesting. And the other one I would say as well, Jess, just sort of is, I wouldn't say it's a trend, but it's like a common thing that we spot is a lot of the brands that we work with are in the direct-to-consumer e-commerce space, and they underplay and underleverage CRM and their existing customers. A lot of brands, particularly I understand this a bit, in the early stages, are new customer obsessed. Because you're new customer obsessed as a founder, particularly, you're like, I've got to get new customers because I don't have any customers. I've got to find new ones. You kind of get in that behavior and pattern recognition of just obsessing about new, and then you don't spend enough time going after a few months or nurturing the ones you've got. And I meet, like, even in the last 2 weeks, I've got like apparel brands and beauty brands. They've got 70-80% of their customers over the life of their bought once, and with a quite consumable product. And you're like, oh my God, like, why have you got so many one-time customers? Like, you know, we need to move that to get, you know, more into the second time or multi-purchase, like, multi-frequency purchases. And there's not enough time and energy spent on really doing great work in CRM and lifetime value.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting as well. Sometimes you do need someone outside of that business with a different perspective to come in and find those.
And I think that's a great tip, isn't it? Like, always look for a bit of outside view. Like, you know, can't see the wood from the trees. Get someone in the helicopter just to look down from above and go, oh, I've spotted some things that you probably can't see because you've got 8,000 emails and the junior marketing manager coming in saying they've broken the email.
Yeah,
Like, well,
exactly. Firefighting all over the place, and then
yeah.
you can't find the holes, unplug the holes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's it must be quite satisfying, to go in, support a business owner, founder, and grow a team, help them get the
Yeah, I
right
mean, I
people.
like growing my own business has been like really, really hard. But a bit like having kids, like the most rewarding thing you can ever do.
Mm.
And actually, I get that by proxy with some of the brands, or the majority of the brands we work with as well. And great example is a beauty brand we run in is actually a male founder, as a skincare or anti-acne brand. Left a big FMCG job, like really safe, secure, to go and found this brand and product. And we met them, and they're doing still doing pretty good, in the small single digit millions. But working capital is really tough. Actually, profitability is quite tough when you're trying to get everything going. And with after a year, a bit working with him, is like I'm in such a sustainable now place, profit growing. I'm able to ask my girlfriend to marry me, and I'm really confident that I can,
Oh, wow.
look after her, because I'm sure her dad or parents would be like, "Is he a good guy? Is he going to support my,
He's left his
beautiful
job.
daughter?"
He's
Yeah,
crazy.
like
Yeah.
because at the moment he's thinking I may not be kind of like seen as high equity or high potential in the in-laws' eyes. So that was delightful to know that we did that. And there's a few other stories like that where we've
Oh,
transformed the
that's
lives of
brilliant.
founders. Yeah.
And do you know what? That's really telling that that's the story you told. Not we got this
Just
business to like 20 million turnover. It was the human,
yeah, well, again, like it's the
impact
outcome, right?
story.
So the
Yeah.
interesting thing there is that whole lead and lag outcome thing, they're all, it's like a chain, because like the outcome for Nick was he was able to propose, but the lead measured to that was that his revenue and profit had gone up. And then how did that go up? Lead measure was we improved conversion in like you keep going up the lead lag tree.
Yeah.
There's a brilliant book actually called The Jelly Effect. I'll see if I can send you a link. You might want to put it in your notes. Read it ages ago, but that talks about, they call out outcomes afters. And there's this brilliant kind of story in that around, why does someone go to the DIY store to buy a drill and a drill bit? And you're like, well, they want to drill a hole. And they're like, yeah, but what for? They want to hang a picture on the wall. Why do they want to do that? It's because they want to stand back and look at the memories they made on a holiday. And then, that transaction for a retailer came from a need and a want to relish in a memory that they made with their family. And that let's keep going down the outcome, the after. What's after this? What's next? What's next? What's next? And we kind of think of things like that. Like,
and that
I think that
informs,
ties into empathy as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's great. What was it called? The Jelly Effect.
The Jelly Effect. Yeah, I can't remember the author because it was a
that.
long time ago. I read it. I'll drop you a link.
Brilliant. Yeah, that would be great. So what advice would you give to a founder now, and perhaps someone who's just left a really safe corporate job, starting something, is doing all right, but maybe they're in a bit of panic mode. What to do next?
So always ask for help. Don't be afraid to help. I say ask for it. I think, I don't know about you, Jess, but often I get once or twice a month, someone just says, can I have 15 minutes to talk? Give me some help and pointers. So ask, and confidence to reach out to people who actually, no, they'll never bother speaking to me. I think that's one thing is really key. I think you're talking about some of the more ways of building awareness and attention. I think the opportunity organically is still very much there. And even though, like, you look at Instagram and probably TikTok in more recent months or anything else, it can be, even if you get 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, or some thousands, when you post, you don't reach them all, right? Because they want you to spend money to boost that content.
Yeah.
But I think you can still get really good signals before you need to boost it. So if you're able to create content, keep testing and learning, put content out, that obviously you've got to put, the cost is your time and energy, which again may be helped by some AI support now. You could probably get some more productivity or output from your ideas. Get them working organically before spending loads of money on like Meta and other places. Obviously, this is very nuanced because depending on the brand and product you're in. And then when you find something does get some engagement, then you could think, wow, what if I put 50 quid behind that or 100 to boost that a bit more and
boost the stuff that's working organically.
Boost the stuff that's working, instead of spending a lot of money trying to learn what works and paying up front for that. Let's have a think as well. you probably got clarity on the mission and the vision and why you started it. So, like, why do you exist, the situation? Have an objective, actually write down that lag measure. Need this much by this time. And again, if you struggle with knowing what is the opportunity here, probably AI could help you answer that a bit. But again, ask for help with people that you know around you that might have a bit of knowledge in that space. And then get that clarity of where to play and how to win. So don't be afraid, I think, also, like in founding times, to go really, really narrow and deep, like I'm only going to make a product that and target, 28-year-old women who are into this. So when you actually get in from a macro point of view, there will still be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of prospects who look like that. When you sort of define that, it means you can really refine your messaging. Instead of trying to send the same message to everyone, you can get really specific around a certain age or a gender or a need. And there's actually another thing I'll send you a link to, Jess. There's something called 1,000 Fans, which talks about this, which is just obsess about the first 1,000 customers. Don't think about the millions or the household name you want to be, which is the vision perhaps for the future.
Yeah.
But getting and iterating quickly to get 1,000, like the first 1,000 is a really interesting time. Yeah. And be happy with that. Again, if you think about, I think this, the article was written around 1,000 Fans, was written more from perhaps a technology point of view, but you think get 1,000 customers will give you £10 a month for 12 months. Suddenly you compound that up and you're like, oh, that's a pretty meaningful number.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't sound very big, does it? 1,000 customers, like when you think about it. And so that's key. And don't panic.
Don't panic.
Ask for help. Everything's okay.
Don't panic. Ask for help is definitely one that I would throw in there as well. Yeah, because it can be quite a lonely place, especially
and one other thing, maybe if you're finding like, I don't want to say like nervous or shy asking for it or anything else, I think as well, the ability to learn on your own time is now more incredible than ever. I mean, we're talking on a podcast now where people will be taking some, I hope, insights and interesting points to utilize in their business, right? You think about what you can type into like YouTube or into a podcast engine, say, optimizing meta spend. Like there will be hours and hours. And I suppose maybe that's the issue, is like you can, like, what do you listen to and everything else? But, follow your gut, look at the reviews, and there's so much content there to help you, guide you through some of the things you might not be an expert in. More than ever, 100%. Right? There's more information at your fingertips.
Yeah, it's out there somewhere and someone can point you in the right direction. Yeah, if you ask, definitely. How important do you think branding is to getting to that growth stage of a business and that exploding? I'm going to ask you that.
What do you describe as branding?
So I mean the visuals and the vision and the mission and the stories of why that brand and how that's communicated out into the world.
Yeah. Okay. So similar definition to me, I suppose. And that, because again, that word gets interchanged a lot, doesn't it? Like we've got a brand.
I know you have to check what
is that just actually logos and typeface rules and colours, or is it actually mission, vision, tone of voice, why we exist? Right? I think
what
great
I mean
ones are together, aren't they? They do both.
Exactly. I mean is the foundations of that business and how it's presented and communicated to the world.
Yeah. So it's absolutely key and should be so actually I'll come back to an example here, right? So I'm a retail guy by experience, and a lot of people in retail you hear say products is king. Like it's all about product, which actually when you're maybe in a department store, the right assortment of products can make or break you. But actually there's a symbiosis, and I would argue that brand is king. If we're talking like king and queen being king, I hope obviously in the more modern world, queens should be equal. But if you get what I mean, let's say.
Yes.
So brand is one, product is two. And the reason is because if you can create an emotional connection to a consumer at a deeper level, both like consciously and subconsciously, when they come to make a decision around what to purchase, that subconscious relationship they have with you will trump even someone who's got a cheaper price. And there's like that kind of common thing of, why do we buy Heinz baked beans and Heinz tomato ketchup versus the Tesco's own brand one, for example? Because there's something it says about either yourself, which is like, I buy the premium thing and that gives me more warm feeling around status, or I'm showing other people this. There's loads of As another good book for your listeners, like it's called The Hidden Persuaders, which is a guy called Vance Packard wrote this in the 50s and 60s, working with all the Mad Men agencies in Madison Avenue in New York.
Brilliant.
Talking about subconscious triggers for decision making and those deep emotional connections you can make to consumers. And if you can create that deep connection, it is a moat around your brand. And interestingly, there's a then different thing of like the investment and the time needed to generate enough stories to get people to fall in love with you can really differ by brand. Right? So if you've got like that, you hear about product market fit, but I think there's another thing called brand market fit where your message and story is absolutely timed brilliantly.
Yeah.
And actually interesting, like if you come back to the Gymshark example, their product was timed brilliantly in the time of people wanting to show off how they looked on Instagram back in 2014, 15. It was kind of the thing to do. But actually the brand storytelling, the product storytelling, which was actually the product told the story of looking brilliant. There's that symbiosis between product and brand at the same time. It's absolutely key. But again, I think if you haven't got a lot of money and you're scared around the return on investment or measuring the success of that investment, is that you have to take it from experts like me and you, Jess, that it is mandatory in the businesses that invest in it. And when I say that, is like brilliant clarity, conscious, great storytelling. Still doesn't need to be expensive, and it can be posted organically, and it can be done on that way that you don't need to go and buy a £2 million TV ad to do the work. And that might come down the track to amplify it. It's about authenticity of that message and clarity at the beginning.
100%.
Really
It's something I say sort of that you work with businesses, they're like, oh, well, that brand over there's got, a £2 million marketing budget. And I was like, they didn't at the beginning.
They would have had zero.
But what they did do was make sure they had a compelling story, a compelling vision, mission, and then they communicated that.
Yeah, and what can be a bit confusing, because brand's a bit like that vapory, it's emotional and difficult to measure and like deconstruct. We have a framework where we talk about like a human truth, a market truth, and like the company or the brand truth, right? And they bend together. So like at Gymshark, like the market truth was no one was making clothes actually dedicated for resistance training and functional training. The human truth was I want people to look at my bum when I train. And we did many of those. We kind of played with different ones. And then brand truth was the vision was like, we want to build a community of people that are making the best versions of themselves in the gym. And then suddenly those things, then you go, right, I can start telling some stories around these anchor points. Right.
Exactly.
I know and my brand team here was funny because Ed and Jamie have had incredible careers at Ogilvy and kind of tier one brand and communications agencies. They said we've seen all sorts of things from like brand spirals and brand trees and brand, whatever. There's loads of frameworks for those things. But I think that's the other thing. Perhaps if you're in that thought around, is my brand good enough or not? There's quite a few good frameworks that you can use to sort of deconstruct. Like, what do we know about the consumer? What's a truth? And a conscious truth that they would admit to you. Ask them a question and they would tell you really truthfully. And what's a truth that perhaps they wouldn't admit to, like subconscious truth? And that's an interesting one, the Gymshark one, which would be, I think most customers would say, the main reason I want to wear these is to get looked at the gym. But we knew that was a truth for a lot of our customers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's hugely important to do that work at the beginning. 100%. And continue to do it as well. It should be an evolution.
Yeah, because the market moves on and the market truth changes and the customer truth changes over time, right? In terms of needs. And actually, that's an interesting journey that a lot of brands go on where, just think of the Gymshark Instagram story, that launching it, the like product and brand timing was brilliant because it was about glam and looking perfect. And then there's a bit of a movement around, well, you don't need to be perfect to be a brilliant human, do you? And then how do you stay on top of that and wrestle that as a brand that was saying, we're for perfect people, right? And now, so that's a really interesting sort of journey that you need to take as a brand. You either go, we'll move with you, or no, we're going to stand for we're for perfect people. Yeah. You're not. Whatever. So,
you have to have conviction, don't you, in what
well, it's a bit like there's brilliant or the brilliant execution of that is Marmite. Like, you either love it or you hate it, and we're for the lovers, and go away if you don't like it. We don't care.
Absolutely.
That confidence in the binary choice of love and hate.
Yeah, definitely. I think know who you are and stick to it, and it comes back to the authenticity thing. Yeah. And it's interesting. It ties back to what you said about play.com at the beginning. You know, if you do branding really, really well from the beginning, you will just be able to have a typeface in an ad and everyone will know who it belongs to.
Yeah.
It's that powerful if you
And
do
actually,
it correctly.
I'm doing a bit of an assessment of a brand today, and they're spending quite a lot of money in Meta. You know, thousands, if not tens of thousands a month, maybe even 100, like a lot. And they're in a category that's quite competitive and like commoditized now. It's an apparel space. And they don't own the frame. So, you know, you see a lot of ads in Meta and your carousel in your story, and you'll get like a user-generated content, which is actually really good. There's a young lady, she's getting ready with some breakfast, and you're like, oh, this is great content. But it could be any other apparel brand that's got this particular style of product. And be confident in owning and framing your ads and your content. They're so inorganic and some of the softer sort of storytelling in organic channels. But the difference we've made for brands that go, I'm going to use some of the brand identity and the feel that we have either in color, tone of voice, shape, and crop the image slightly in the way that we go. Obviously, Gymshark's like subconscious image, I think, is always angles, never curves.
Yeah.
You know, like the logo was very like a cute accent of the shark head.
Yeah.
Everything had to be, if we saw a curve on something, like, no, whoa. But always like cropping and slicing. And there's so many little tricks. It's a 30-second job in Photoshop or in Canva or whatever to just add something you own to the identity of your ad, a shape, a frame, an ident, you know, that is on everything. And then if people are swiping quite fast across the stories, because you'll get used to it, don't like, okay, so it's story, ad, story, ads, and you get most of it. You're like, I want to see my friends, want to add quickly, and you just swipe. You don't even. It's suddenly those little things, like over a period of time, I get to see that little shape. That's that brand that's got that shape. You know,
and it stays. That's that subliminal advertising.
Oh man, and it's frequency, right? Because your brain gets it. You've seen it, 30 times over a month, and suddenly you're then in market for that type of product. You go, oh, now it sticks out.
Remember.
It's suddenly, like that thing of you don't need a car, you don't ignore all car ads, and then your car breaks down. And suddenly, every car ad's like, really loud volume, that's your limbic system in your brain going,
100%. It's not magic, it's marketing.
Yes, I like that quote.
Yeah. You can have that one to wait.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
It's very you help businesses grow, you help them do what you do, which is very, very satisfying, but you're also running your own thing. So with the advice and everything we talked about in terms of marketing now, are you doing that well for yourself, or is it falling off the table because you're doing it for so many other brands?
Jay, I have to be completely honest. A lot of the principles we talk about for culture, clarity of where to play, how to win are in place. Interestingly, on the demand side, we've been really lucky that the majority of our work has come through referral. So, doing great work, and someone says we've had brilliant experience come through. But I would say, and a lot of our energy is spent working on our clients versus ourselves. So we've done a better job of actually trying to carve out Fridays as obviously you always get client needs, but working on ourselves within our own framework.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say, probably there's maybe a few of us are listening have got friends who are builders is a great example, who build amazing houses for others, and you go to their house and it's a bit messy, isn't it? I'm still half finished the extension out the back and haven't quite got to it.
Holes in the floor.
We're not at that extreme, but there are absolutely areas for improvement. Yeah. And the other interesting tension I've got in my business is that the vast majority of my team are from brand, and that adds a lot of power in terms of our pattern recognition and knowing what it feels like to be in brand. So we turn up and feel like an extension to the team genuinely because we understand it. So we're not agency lifers, and nothing wrong with that, but that's our proposition. So we actually don't know some of the best practices in agency ops, for example. So I'm doing more things around some of the other things that when you're servicing multiple clients, and again, we've got some brilliant practitioners here who haven't been trained in switching, you've got client 1, client 2, client 3, client 4 back to back. That takes quite a lot of energy for some of my team to switch from I'm obsessed in depth with client 1. I've got to switch to client 2 with only a 5-minute tea break in between, and be knowledgeable, confident. And that pattern recognition or muscle memory or brain strength comes with a bit of age, I think, and practice. And also to depend on how your brain works as well. I'm relatively lucky that I can switch quite quickly and doesn't tire me out too much. But I can see other team members that really struggle with the switch. So it's then having the empathy to go, right, well, let's not back to back you. Let's protect you and put more time, or try and block a day so you can work on things a bit more exclusively, that kind of sole focus versus spinning many plates.
Yeah, 100%.
It's hard, isn't it? I think that's because I haven't been diagnosed, but I've got a lot of ADHD traits, Jess. I get like easily distracted and can spin quite a lot of things at once.
Yeah, I relate, and it's not an unusual thing that I hear in these conversations around that, like too many tabs open, 15 projects on the go at the time, 3 conversations happening over here, darting all over the place. It seems to be a common thread.
And I think I'm the same, and I think
I
suppose also like and sort of saying this back to myself is like identifying times where you can do deep, like ideally non-distracted work. And one of the things that's amazing for me that all of your like standard messaging and notification platforms from Outlook and Gmail through to WhatsApp and Slack, everything by default have notifications set on and loud. And I, over the last probably 15 years, have got to a place where every notification of every platform is off. And now I'm in control of what I check and when I check it. Yeah. And you can set up obviously P1 groups where things can get through, but otherwise you've got like constantly, particularly in like an agency or a multi-client business like ones you and I work in, just it's non-stop. I mean, you can literally bang, 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 like where would you ever get anything done? And you need to, I think a lot of success for people, when I talk about successful, that are, happy with their lives. And the way they're managing that is to say, I'm going to block time for email or messaging here, deep work there, client there, and just and then trying to avoid that distraction.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think I definitely am one of those. I'm going to deal with that now, and then it's done. Take it off the list, move in.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Like you said, when things are coming in all over the place, that's just a rolling thing, and you can't get to the actual thing that you were planning on doing.
Yeah, are you like me where you go, that's a deep, complex question, or I need to really consider the answer? I can't answer it, but I'll still just reply, got this, back later today.
Yeah,
then you've reduced the anxiety, haven't you, of the person who's sending it, going, have they got it? Do they understand it?
And
Whatever.
And that's what I was going to add to that then, is like, if you are managing a team and you're working with people, I feel a responsibility to not ignore them if they are coming to you for help for that time. So you feel like, right, I need to respond, but I can't get to that right this second. But time blocking is a huge part of what I'm trying to figure out so that I can pass that on to the teams that I work with. And as I've got older, I've also realized, it's not life and death. Nothing terrible will happen if I just leave that for 15 minutes and, go and have lunch for a change. It's one of those, and it is that kind of realizations.
Awareness. It's an interesting balance, that, isn't there? Because you're probably similar, like as marketers, we're always like looking to please and delight people to create attraction and traffic to us. Like it's not what we do. But you're right. It's
and I think there's an element of especially working in that industry for so long, if you don't jump on that opportunity immediately, often it's gone.
It's the fear of rejection and fear of failure, isn't it? Or fear of missing out. Again, proper FOMO.
Proper FOMO. Like someone else will get on that.
So again, if you think about that prioritization, because I suppose if there's an opportunity that's come your way, and it might be, I have to sacrifice my tea break to get on that probably is a sensible choice. Whereas I've got a P2 email that nothing's on fire, but it needs attention today. Then do you know what? Take the 15 minutes and get to it later. And I still would go acknowledge, I'll get to this and I like to kind of like over promise on the time. It'd be my style. So I'll get this to you by 8 p.m. tonight, and then it's sent at 5. So you've like over promised again, or over delivered.
I always do that as well. I've got to give myself
yourself
deadline.
a buffer as well, right?
Yeah. I got to give myself a deadline so it happens, but also allow room for fire happening over there somewhere that gets diverted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, interesting. I think it's a high speed industry to be in, isn't it? And you have to be curious and keep up. Keep up
and
with
like
the game, definitely.
In particularly. Marketing and I know e-commerce the same. Like a week in this industry, like dog weeks, like seven weeks in anyone else's life or in other categories.
Yeah, and then you have a conversation with like a content marketer over there, and you're like, oh, actually, what worked last week on that channel? Something
doesn't
else
work anymore.
Updated. Yeah. We need to rethink that whole strategy. Yeah, definitely. Oh, fun. I wouldn't have it any other way though, would you?
Just making sure I answer that question with a considered approach. Any other way? Probably not. No, I mean, I'm trying to like come up with a witty and fast reply to that. No, but
Is
it's
there a
probably
part
why
of you enjoys the fast pacedness and the challenge and the chase?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. What? Yeah, yes, I adore it. I think the thing I leverage is like building that clarity and strategy. That's the outcome. You know, the outcomes or the afters I talk about, like meeting a business that's all a bit confused and, you know, talk to the marketing director, say, what's your strategy? And they say one thing, and you talk to the founder and they say something else. And there's 70% crossover is true. And then, but there's 30% difference. You're like, well, there's a noise already that's going to cause you to get some, fixing that and getting that clarity and is really key. But no, I wouldn't, Jess. It's really good.
It's satisfying, isn't it? It's really satisfying. Satisfying work, definitely. So I'm going to bring it back to the alchemy theme. If you had a personal alchemy formula or ingredient for success, what couldn't you do without? And it could be a personality trait that you have that you wouldn't be where you are without, or it could be, you know.
Yeah, that's what I come back to. There's a book called Legacy, and actually I was interested because I was probably doing this a bit from parental work ethic and peers that I was watching around me grow with more responsibility or respect in the organizations I work with, is that they, the quote from the book is that you, champions do extra, they run the extra mile while no one's watching. So it's those moments of extra effort, work, consideration, and the important point is that while no one's watching or has asked you to do it.
Not for recognition.
And proactive nature of, do you know what, I'm just going to, it might be that, you know, you're in a business development team and you're at your lunch break and a relatively hot lead's landed in your inbox. Do you know what, I'll just jump on that. I won't make a big song dance and go, oh, guess what I've just done? I've sent an email when I should be at lunch, you know, like, but just get it done. There is some, talk about like the framework. There's a few other things that I think are seeing in people that are happy with their lives, is that they take responsibility for their actions and the outcomes of them and don't ever remove them. They are, they choose to be positive. So even if they're having a tougher time, both at home or at work, they take a really conscious choice to kind of try and not, like mood hoover.
Or energy vampire.
Energy vampire, like bring some positive, and that can be super tiring if you're going through a tough time and you're panicking. It can. Got to go into your team as the founder and say everything's all right, and you've got in your back of your mind lots of anxiety. But the ones that are able to do that are good. Set huge, unbelievably great goals, but not so great, huge and unbelievable that they aren't even feasible. Like feasibly huge and achievable things. Yeah. And again, like goals, objectives, how much by when? Because I think if you can manifest and think about that typically you can check and balance as you go along. They're really key. Key ones as well, I think. Yeah.
Love that. I love that bit about accountability though, because I think there can be a culture of, you know, blame that happens within businesses. You know, that was your idea of now of things. But if you are responsible for that team and you've,
and I think that comes back a little bit, bump into that note earlier on, Jess, was like, if you can, particularly in brand and marketing, like the words I know are like deathly to you. Because if you say, I know this will work, and then it doesn't, you're in a pretty sticky situation. But also the challenge in the roles we work in is like, you have to convince the finance team or the founder that you've got to do something that could be a bit controversial or unconventional. So, and they're like, well, how confident are you that this is going to work? And you'll say, I know it's going to work. Don't you? Like, or you fall into the, don't say I know.
Yeah. Possibly.
I think being really carefully around like the principles of, I think, but my confidence of think is like high. Yeah. You know, and I can prove that by this. I've done some good work that says actually that, you know, like doing nothing results in this. Staying as we are, this I think will produce this outcome. And I think then the point after that will be, And if it doesn't, we'll move quickly. I'll take responsibility for that, and we'll move on and fix and learn and progress.
Absolutely. Stop dwelling in the mistakes and move forward. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thanks, Richard. That was amazing. I feel like we could have talked for days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has been really lovely. Thank you, Jess. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, and I hope that you have a wonderful week.
Yeah, likewise. And guys, if you want to check me out, head to the Growth.Foundation. I'm there. Again, I'm very genuine. If you need help, always here. Drop me a DM and I'll always try and find some time. But thanks a lot, Jess. You too. Have a great summer.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Brand Scale. Look out for another episode dropping very, very soon.